Okay.
Yo.
What
We are
up?
live on the air. This is the Producers Hangout. We are on episode 5, I believe, and I am Flux of fluxwithit.com, and I'm a sound designer, producer, all-around synth nerd, and I will pass it off to Mike.
What up, guys? Mike.com, German electronic and hip hop producer, and welcome to the show. I'll pass it over to Bryce.
Bryce, I go by Upright, beat maker, synth enthusiast, music head, and over to Kev.
Hey, what up? Kev here, KevWestBeats.com. I'm getting feedback, like some really bad feedback. Where's it coming from? Okay, that's on me. Okay, there we go.
King of the beats currently.
I don't know about that. I'm the king of math class right now. My machine has been neglected. I'm getting ready for finals. Hip hop house producer, avid gamer. If you guys haven't checked out my either of my YouTube channels, youtube.com/KevWest and youtube.com/YourGirlWantsKev for my gaming channel. And let's get started.
All right, guys. So I think the first topic on hand that we're going to discuss is dealing with the video that we saw from, I believe it was a Microsoft conference, about the Akai MPC prototype that had essentially a Windows tablet bolted onto it and is running a form of Windows 8 that is optimized as being a hardware firmware. A couple different thoughts about this, and I'm gonna pass it off to Mike and let Mike kind of let us hear what his thoughts on this are.
Okay, before I tell you my thoughts on this, I wanted to go a step back, and I want to say thanks to 2,000 members in our Facebook group.
Oh yeah,
That's amazing. We started around about 5 months ago, and we would never expect that it's grown that fast. And actually, in the last few days, it was a little hard to manage the whole group because it's so big now and people posting like crazy. So we also have new admins in the group, and I want to say hi to Jimmy and to George. And if you guys check out the Facebook group, you will see 2 posts that introduce them as new admins. And if you have any complaints about the group or any questions, go ahead, and you can also ask them anytime. They will help you out wherever they can.
I'd say we try to stay as on top of the group as possible. There's just been so much activity that it's basically a full-time job just to even keep track of all the posts. So if you're asking questions and you need a specific answer and we haven't gotten to it, maybe tag us in the post. Hopefully we can get back to you on that. With the new admins that we have in here, and also shout out to Willie Fats, who is also an admin.
And Aaron.
Of the Machine Warehouse. And also, we have Aaron Wilfork in there as well. And they've both been staying on top of all the posts as well. So yeah, if you guys have questions or if you need anything, just let us know. We try to stay very much on top of it. We try to make sure that everybody has a good attitude in the group. We really don't tolerate people, being douchebags. So, with that said, we can kind of move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, before we move on from that too, slap that report button if somebody's messing with you, because that's a good way. I know I've gotten reports on my cell phone from it, and I'll just jump right in and say if I'm like in class or something, and I'll just ban the guy, take care of it right from my phone.
And we try to be as fair as possible,
Oh, so do I. Like I said yesterday, I think I've banned like 2 people from the group the whole time.
I've done much more than that, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I've done like 2.
Jerk, so.
Me too.
So this NPC situation, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you guys saw the video from the Microsoft conference. They introduced kind of
Yep.
MPC study where they showed a new MPC running Windows embedded on it. And I wanted to bring up that topic because I think it's really, really interesting. Um, Even if this machine is not actually coming out or will be released to the public, I think it's a really interesting situation how they try to combine regular operating systems with studio gear. And actually, what I was thinking the first time was this is kind of great because I have like a whole computer with me, and I can take it to another studio, and um, I don't have to think about all the plugins I have at home, or maybe not even installed. It's just one machine, and I have it separated maybe from my internet. I don't have to manage two whole systems at home. But I also have some cons I want to talk about later. But first, I want to know what do you guys think about the whole situation? Is it necessarily, or is it a step forward to combine regular operating systems with studio gear, or do you think it's just fine to have them just connected via USB, or have operating systems that are totally different than the ones on your computer? Like, I mean, the MPC always had their own operating systems on
I
it.
think
What-
I can see a few possible scenarios with this playing out, and some of them are positive, some of them are negative. But my initial thought when I saw this prototype, okay, totally aside from whether the fact of it actually coming out or not coming out is besides the point. But my initial reaction of it is this, okay, a lot of people wanted a MPC that did not need to be tied to a computer. A lot of people want the same from Machine and other hybrid pieces of gear. This is a way of doing that, but it worries me in the fact that so let's say we take an embedded Windows as your operating system. Now, one, I wonder about, is this going to increase boot times? Is this going to cause the hardware to be, flaky at all? Let's say it's all rock solid. In that regards, then we have to think about, okay, well, how much processing power are you going to have to stuff into these, essentially what was just a controller? How much processing power are you going to stuff into it where you reach a happy median of being able to use your machine or your MPC or whatever with plugins, and how much memory are you going to keep on board? And as you do that, as you up this threshold of what's considered usable, then you start upping price point, you start upping problems that can happen. Me personally, I would not want a hard drive in my unit that's going to be portable that has moving parts. So I'm going to want an SSD. If you're going to have an SSD, then you're going to have limited space. That means what kind of, or at least use external drives with it. So you could have a boot disk. But then you have to start thinking about, well, if you're doing this, how much power am I really going to have? Am I going to have just like, the Microsoft Surface amount of power? And how many plugins can I run on that before I start coming into problems? And then how is that going to translate when I come into the studio? Is it going to act as like a node, like how you can set up in Mac OS, you can run logic nodes? Could it be something where I plug in a wire to my main computer and use that additional processing power? Or is that all I'm going to be limited to? So that's where I start getting worried. And how's it going to work for Mac users? Is that going to translate at all? Because many of us are using Macs and not Windows and don't want to switch to Windows.
That's a good point.
So that worries me.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my whole thing with it too. I understand they're trying to please everybody, but here's the thing: you can't please everyone. You just can't. There are like what 12 or 13 standalone NPCs. And then the one that they made that was meant to be hybrid, people complained about. I honestly think, I'm not saying to stop making standalone NPCs, But what I'm saying is you either need to feed both markets or forget one, because you're not going to make both happy.
Well, let me ask you, Kev, because you primarily like to stay in the box, and you like to keep a very small setup, and you don't, have a large expanse setup. Does something where it's all in one like that you can just take it and go, does that interest you as much?
No, I'd much rather. I like the machine way of going with things. If I want my hands-on interface, I'll use my machine. Otherwise, I'll take my laptop. I have the iRig Keys Mini, and I go.
What about let me ask you guys this. What about if the OS opens up new capabilities inside the MPC? You know what I mean? If you guys kind of thought about that, instead of just it being a Windows-based machine, it would actually bring more functionality and more possibilities than just having a little limited OS, that Akai makes and throws in there.
Well, that's true.
You have something more robust with Windows.
My initial thought on that was how great. I love slicing and chopping samples on BeatMaker, 2, using your fingers to touch the screen, and that was my initial hope for the Machine Studio when I first saw it. I was hoping that it would be touchscreen up here so that you could do that, and they didn't do that, and from what I understand, it would have added significantly to the cost. But if companies are going to me, the screen was the bigger advantage out of all of it. Was if you have that screen, you can do that. Now, as far as the underlying Windows inside of that, I would wonder whether or not that's going to make it easier for these companies to code. It's going to bring down the level of difficulty for those engineers. And I'm not an engineer, so I can't really speak to that. But if it makes it easier for them, that interests me a lot. Just Kev is very into video games, so he would relate to the thought of certain video game systems do better when they have a much easier to code for platform. I would wonder about sequencers and these hardware pieces being the same way.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking Windows was going to go into this MPC for the benefit of building the OS around that Windows kind of platform, instead of them having to do it however they build an OS and put it in there. I was thinking, okay, they're going to build it around Windows so that way they can incorporate other things easier, or whatever. So I don't know. But in that regard, I could see it being, I could see it being a good idea if it's a light version of Windows 8, because they say Windows 8, they make you think it's going to be a full-blown, OS in there,
No, that's why it's called Windows Embedded. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of like a modular Windows, so they can,
gotcha.
They can only pick different modules from Windows and build it like a solid core from it and put their software on top on it. So it's not a full running Windows, and I think this is never going to happen.
And they've done it before. They've done it. Microsoft has done a version of this before, where I think it was it ME or something like that. They did a Windows that was designed as a firmware Windows before that was modular in that way. I don't have any experience with it, but I know that this is not the first time that they've gone down this path.
And Windows is light enough so that could happen. It's
a
really light OS.
Yeah. Yep.
Very high performance too.
Yeah.
How scary would it be to find out one day you load up your machine and you get a blue screen of death, or you get bugs, or a Trojan horse virus inside of your MPC? How bad would that be?
Now you're taking a jab at Windows.
Well, no, not necessarily. I'm saying to me it would be the same as if it was running on a Mac OS or something else, where if it's running on a computer operating environment that has the potential to be cross-coded, for lots of other things, and I certainly would not want to be checking my email or browsing the internet on my MPC.
Oh, no.
Although I say that, but at the same time, I would love to be able to sample dig YouTube right from my controller. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But think about the MPC, maybe as a next step, maybe you have a solid system and a controller my thought was maybe the next step after this new MPC could probably be like a Surface MPC, where you put your Surface onto the MPC and you have like a full system, and then you just grab your Surface out of it, and you can go and make like mobile beats like it's just an app, but with a full powered system. This is, I mean, that's just imagination, you know. But this could be the next step.
Does anybody have a concern about that with latency? Because I'm thinking, like, I believe Surface is Android based, isn't it?
No, it's Windows.
No.
No,
Yeah,
it's
Oh, it's completely Windows?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking if it's Android based, then that'd be a problem because of all the latency with Android. Okay.
From what I understand, I haven't done a lot of latency testing with the Surface tablets, but I've done it with Android, and I've done it with iOS, and from what I understand, the Windows latency touchscreen round trip is actually pretty low. It's not quite iOS, but it's getting closer.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't really bother me, especially if I have pads. As long as I have pads and I can input via a near zero latent technology, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But what concerns me more is really about, okay, well, are they going to, how much added cost is the licensing also going to be? I mean, obviously something that's running completely standalone like that is going to be pretty pricey, and I don't want to get into so much about whether this specific product is real, but more just products in general, because to me this is the whole point of Microsoft showing this, was that it was a platform for everything. So let's say your Novation, your next Novation synthesizer comes out and has Windows embedded and is using advanced VST style synthesis going on inside of your instead of having to buy something bulky like a Phantom or a Motif, you can have something small and it has all that power, plus all the virtual analog synthesis that comes along with it. Plus, like Roland just came out with the Aria, where it has the plug-out technology.
Yeah, plug-out, yep.
So essentially, this is like a step beyond that, where you can, there's been what's the rack mount one, the Receptor, and there's other technologies that have come out already that are basically PCs in a musical format, but this could be much lighter than that and much smaller. So I mean, that's interesting.
What about
another thing? Oh, go ahead, Kev.
Oh, I'm thinking, what about cost too? Because like you said, they've done this in the past. Then you think about things like the Miko and the Nico that were complete flops because they were so expensive. Can they keep the price affordable? I mean, our equipment's already pretty expensive.
The issue with that was less about the price, but more about, I didn't really prefer the layout so much. Like, I like having, I don't even really like keybeds with pads on them so much, like the MPK series and all. Like, I like my pad controllers totally separate.
Yeah, me too.
To each his own.
Yeah.
But it would make me think about, okay, well, if they're using this to start doing things like allowing VSTs inside standalone hardware that you take out, what's going to happen as iOS develops and iPads develop? Because there's going to be competing platforms. So then I start worrying about compatibility. How compatible is my synthesizer that runs this Windows platform versus my sequencer that's running like this new form of iOS that eventually comes out, and are they all going to crosstalk okay, and that kind of thing.
See, and that's what I was thinking about when I first saw this and realized it was Microsoft's kind of whole deal. So iOS is like killing it with the app game right now, and that momentum is growing and growing and growing. And I kind of see Windows, they see that whole deal, and they're like trying to figure out how they can get in on that market and jump in on that. And this may be their approach to that, because iOS, as far as apps, man, you already know. I mean, you can get full-blown synthesizers that sound great on your iPad. You know what I mean? So
I would say that is primarily the reason why I would go for an iPad over any other. Like, I have Nexus 7. I've got different tablets, but realistically speaking, I don't want any other tablets aside from an Apple tablet, just for the simple fact that their music platform is so good, and it's primarily because of the low latency. The latency of the touchscreen is so much better than these other platforms. Now, if Surface starts coming out with these really great platforms, and maybe more developers are going to want to go there if the latency is as good, But I think that's the primary thing that stops musicians from wanting to go to Android, because it just doesn't work.
It's horrible. Their latency is insane.
Yeah, I have another big pro for the concept. Think about guys putting this thing on stage. Maybe DJs who also produce their own beat. I don't know if you guys have experience with putting Tractor and Machine live on stage. It always requires two computers that are synced via MIDI clock. I'm sorry. And so you have to bring two laptops, one running maybe Ableton on the machine, and one's running Tractor or whatever DJ software they use.
Well, I've done it. I've done it with one machine, but I agree. It's so much easier when I use two machines. When I bring my two MacBooks as opposed to my one, I do have way less stress.
I mean, if you want two screens, like if you have a Tractor on one screen and a machine on the other, you have and you have all your VST plugins right with you, So for DJs going live and playing their own tracks, this really could be an improvement.
Yeah, when I do live shows like that, I tend to not have machine really up on my screen at all. I tend to just use my controller, and then Tractor is usually what's up. And I tend to be able to sync fairly well, but more about stability and also being able to, because I mean, unfortunately, you can't really load two different projects of machine at once. And I've done things like, host one in a DAW and leave one standalone and then run Tractor separately. And I've tried different techniques, but I do prefer to have two separate systems. But with this, I mean, the big thing to me would be about how difficult or how easy will it be to bounce from let's say you sync it up to a much larger system that's obviously more powerful, because I don't see them putting like an i7 into an MPC and having it be under $3,000. You see what I mean? Like, so to me, it's like, well, when I'm in my studio, I need an i7. You know what I mean? I need all this extra power because I'm doing other things. So how am I going to condense these projects down and still keep the flexibility? Am I going to be stemming out a lot? And there is advantages to that, but at the same time, I'm like, why wouldn't I still just bring a laptop?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to prevent me from bringing a laptop on stage, because I still have so many other things that aren't going to be able to run on this MPC. So really, what's the real advantage? I'm not walking around with a Ren, that's for sure, and the Ren still needs to be plugged into a wall. So for smaller devices, I could see more power. Like, I could definitely see a synthesizer running Windows, and sounding fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, I could definitely see things like that. I used to have a Alesis Fusion HD. And that was really one of the first hybrids that came out, to where it had all these different sampling and synthesis technologies in it, but it also had a hard drive, a real actual hard drive, so you could stream large library sample libraries off of it and fill up the RAM with what was on the hard drive. This could be like a further step down that road.
So they haven't really gone into too much detail on what this will even be for. It's just basically they're just kind of throwing it out there as like a teaser kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
they also mentioned that they plan to build like DJ mixers on Windows Embedded, which could be maybe even the more realistic step than putting it into an MPC.
And in that range, yeah, you can look at like the Pioneer DJM 909 that has excellent effects right in it. I mean, how much deeper you could go with those effects, or even just being able to load VSTs into your mixer. Like, I would love that. I'd be all over that.
Or maybe some kind of app store where you could access that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
how wide is that stuff going to be supported, really? I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about that, it all comes down to support. So,
Yep.
but again, Windows is a very well-known platform, so it should be easily coded for. It's
Right.
just a matter of how many people are going to be buying these
And
separate.
that's the point.
Yeah.
They already built it for Windows. The
Mhm.
VSTs are running on Windows.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's a good point. That's a good
There's
point.
no double work to do, like building
Right.
apps for portable devices. It's already made.
Huh.
So maybe that's even a pro. You know, they can focus, or maybe have only to focus on two systems, like Mac and Windows, but they're actually supporting a portable system with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it definitely is interesting when it's thought about in other processes. I don't see it as much as a need for something like an MPC or a MV8000 successor or whatever, but I do see it much more in terms of a, a a MIDI controller keyboard, you know, that also has synthesis inside of it, and then using that as the backbone for that. I can definitely see it for that. I can definitely see it for things like mixers or pedal boards even. I would love to have I have the Guitar Rig pedal board. I'll pull this thing up so that you can see what I'm talking about. Oh, I'm diving underneath the roads. Bear with me.
Isn't that thing just a MIDI controller anyway? That you trigger with your feet?
So this guy right here, which is the Guitar Rig pedal board, the Guitar Rig Rig Control 3. Now,
right.
if this was running Windows, right, and had a screen where I could navigate on it and just load in Guitar Rig and different effects or whatever, that would be insane. Like, and they have sort of kind of ideas like that with iOS pedals.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So really, it's like they're trying to. It's almost like they're trying to do the same thing in a sense, but just go a different route, kind of. With major companies like Akai.
Do you think it's a competition thing where Microsoft is just trying to compete, or do you think it's a new?
I think they're definitely just trying to compete. I think they're trying to find their lane in this whole, this whole iOS kind of app system thing, But I think Apple has a real strong foothold on it, But I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think Apple's really got it sewed up. But
well, would it scare you to be relying on Stage for a piece of gear that has Windows in it, or do you think it's more of a wait and see, or
Windows is solid, man. Like, for all the people that can say a lot of negative things about Windows, I've been on Windows 8 since the beginning and have had hardly any problems with it.
I don't want to. I'm not poo-pooing Windows at all. I think to each his own. If you like Windows, you like Windows, and that's fine. But my concern is more about as light as they can make it. There's always that nagging thing in the back of my head that's saying, how stable are you? Compared to, and I mean, you could say that about any firmware, really.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a PC-based firmware to be worried about that. I mean, I've had plenty of crashes on other gear. I've had even my ultra stable MPC 2000 XL crash on me before. So
yeah. And I've had iOS apps like Nave. If you set up a controller, a CC message to Nave, and you start playing with an external controller sent to Nave, you get crackles and pops all over the place. So, I mean, nothing's 100% reliable, but I guess it just comes down to the app you're running and in the situation that you're in, if you trust the app,
Sure.
Yeah.
I switched to Mac about 6 months ago, so I'm pretty new to the Mac world. And I can honestly say I would not go back to Windows at this time.
Oh.
But I have to say,
Shots fired.
thinking that OS X will never crash, that's...
oh no, it'll crash. There's no doubt about that. It's definitely not bulletproof.
But I never had kind of a blue screen. Maybe an app is crashing, but the whole system is
rock solid, huh?
stable. But at the other side, I just built an audio PC based on Windows for my dad, who puts it on stick, and it's totally reliable. He has no problems. I think Windows is very stable as long as you only use it for one certain thing. If you start mixing like graphics, video, and audio stuff together, or even games on it later,
Yep.
Well,
I agree.
Let's not offend Kev over here because I know that.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, I haven't had any
Bryce,
problems.
you're on PC as well, right?
Yeah, and I haven't had any problems with my my i7. It's probably 4 years old, but about 3 or 4 years old, but I mean it runs rock solid, no problems at all. And the computer I had before this was it was right before the i7s came out, so I had that processor. I can't remember what it was, quad I don't know, whatever it was, but I started doing video and audio on that computer, and it just started going haywire, you know. So I found that I was always reinstalling Windows, you know, and I don't run anything bootleg. All my stuff is legit, you know. So just I agree with what he's saying there, that, you know, sometimes when you do too much on Windows, it's like that's when you start running into problems, which is kind of weird, but yeah.
I don't know. I haven't had those issues. Like, I do my gaming, my videos, making my music, all this. I'm on my music computer streaming this right now.
Right.
Like, this is basically my entertainment device. I don't watch TV. I think I told you guys that. I watch YouTube and Hulu, and no problems. I'm on this guy for hours at a time.
Yeah. So now I have computers dedicated to gaming and video, and a computer dedicated to audio. So that's just how I do it now, to keep things separate, and I have no problems now. So.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I mean, just little things that I see some of the companies doing tend to worry me a little bit, even if they shouldn't. Like, when I started seeing Mac OS was starting to dump things in, like integrated Twitter, integrated Facebook, and things. Mm-hmm. Aside from the distraction side of things, it starts to worry me about extra things running in the background and that kind of thing.
Right.
So with Windows, I had used Windows for a number of years, and I just didn't like the upkeep that I had to go through in order to keep my system fresh for a long period of time. And also, I'm not Windows, I would rather just be making music. And I don't poo-poo on Windows or Mac or whatever. Like, eventually I'll probably get another Windows machine in here to supplement my Macs, because there's a lot of programs that'll run on one that won't run on the other. And I'm all for having, a dedicated synthesizer just Windows. Like, I'm fine with that. But when I start thinking about my gear depending on Windows on stage, that worries me. It really does. But again, I mean, if it's truly modular, and you don't have to, like, it doesn't need the internet in it, it doesn't need this, doesn't need that, and it only is using like this small core firmware, then, I mean, there's no reason why it can't be rock solid. And
right.
There's no reason why it can't run very easily on the kinds of processors that are extremely cheap these days.
Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, I mean, that would possibly open up more, possibilities for the people that are making the stuff. So,
Okay. Well, let's move on for a quick second. Let me just ask you guys what's been going on new with your setups, or what you've been working on, or anything to that effect.
Go ahead, Mike.
I got my third machine studio now.
Third.
Ooh. Yeah. When you remember the last episode, I said I was extremely happy to get the second unit, because the first one were pad 1 was reacting very weird. And when I got my second machine, I realized it was not only pad 1, it was the whole machine that was kind of lagging from the pads. And now my second unit started acting weird again. So I sent it into the shop where I bought it again, and I got the third unit, and this one runs stable so far. Fingers crossed.
And you don't feel like anything was related to your system or anything like that?
No. It was definitely a hardware. I tested it out on 2 other systems with exactly the same. And I think I had this discussion this morning in the Facebook group. I think I just had bad luck because I don't hear a lot of people complaining about the studio. Uh, Maybe it was related to the shop. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe they had a batch of bad units. I'm not sure. But this one is running pretty good so far. And yeah, besides that, I got a friend of mine came over a few days ago, and he brought me Yuhi Diva.
Oh yeah.
One of my
And
favorite scents.
Nice.
I fell in love with the Diva. It's great. It's
Yeah, I really like that one as well. Yeah, it's got a great
it's
sound.
really hungry. If people watching this with not a really up-to-date system with lots of RAM and CPU power, I would not recommend getting it because like Yuhi says on their website, it really is a diva. It needs attention and power and else, you know? But if your system is up to date, I highly recommend it. It sounds so warm, and Bryce is having fun here.
I'm laughing at Kev, man.
Boy, oh,
He's very old school hip hop.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I think I will definitely go and buy a copy of Diva for myself.
Yeah, I've been wanting that too.
oh, yeah. I had it for a while, and I got rid of it just because I had too many cents. But yeah, Diva's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know what else?
Sound is
sorry?
just
You sold it, Kev? You sold Diva?
Yeah, I sold Diva like a year ago.
Oh, okay.
I bought it like 6 months after it came out. I used it. I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. And
Right.
about a year ago, I remember I was downsizing a bunch of my synthesizers, and Diva was one of the ones I let go.
Oh, man. Okay.
I just don't ever find myself selling any software even when I stop using it because I always keep thinking, oh, well, I'm going to come back to it, or
Yeah.
oh, I did, this beat 25 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm always just like, oh, well, I want to use this or that, or but I never like I'll disable plugins sometimes so that they don't show up on my system, so it's just not cluttered. But I just selling, man, I'm a hoarder.
Yeah.
Let me tell people the story with my old machine, maybe as an as an advice. When I got the Machine Studio, I sold my MK1, and so I also deinstalled Machine 1.8 from my computer, and I was pretty sure I got backed up everything. I saved all the beats with the samples and stuff, so I was pretty sure I'm good to go to Machine 2.0, but what I forgot, I had a bunch of Studio One projects that needed the 1.8 plugin, and I didn't have it anymore because it was deregistered already. And I had like 50 beats that were totally useless now because Machine 1.8 was not on the system. And I called Native Instruments, and they didn't have a solution for me. All they said was get an older MK1 and install Machine 1.8 for it because there's not even demo software. So
It sounds to me like that's something that needs to be corrected. I mean, like I understand that they're two totally different software, but there should be a way to make Studio One force to load Machine 2 instead of Machine
exactly.
1.0.
Yeah, I think the same way. But what I want to tell people is, I mean, I would never could have afforded the Machine Studio without selling the MK1. But what I tell the people is, take some time, save more money, and keep both systems for a certain time until you're really sure you have everything set up correctly and everything's running as you expected.
Yeah, I'm such a hoarder. Like I don't even sell my old Macs. Like I still have my old laptops, because I have so many projects on them that you know, sure, I could back them up and translate them over to other systems, but a lot of the times you still, like, there'll always be that one little thing that just doesn't work quite right, and that drives me up the wall. So instead of doing that, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm not going to sell it. Like, the projects that are on it are more valuable to me than a couple grand. Like, let me keep the projects and make sure that if I need to come back to them later, and I triple back up all my hard drives. You know, I make sure that everything is matter of fact, after this show, I'm probably gonna have to go and get some more hard drives. But
Virtual hard drives.
I'll run through what I've been up to really quick. I'm gonna keep it super short this time.
I think Bryce and I should go before Ken.
No joke.
I'll just tell you very, very quickly what I'm doing right now. So I'm waiting on my sub fatty, which should be here tomorrow. So
you're gonna be sending that over to me. We already talked about that, but yeah, go ahead.
Something like that. So I'm waiting on that. The RF Nomad module for my Eurorack should be here tomorrow as well. I'm currently building this guy right here, which is the Synthrotech Sequence 8, which is an 8-step sequencer for the modular synth, which is pretty darn cool. And I'll have a building video of that coming up as well. So I'm filming the entire build process, and you know,
MS-20.
What's that?
You got the MS-20, right? Too.
Yeah. I got the. I thought I talked about it. I got the MS-20, and I did a modification video on that. I also did a modification on the Chaos Pad down here. So there's videos of that stuff up on my website. I bought more cables than I'm gonna say out loud, because I bought a lot of cables. But
different car payments to buy cables.
Yeah, so I've got the Belkin Thunderbolt Express dock, which lets me, you know, run FireWire and Ethernet and all that good stuff with my Retina MacBook Pro, which so far it's been rock solid. I haven't had any of the problems that I've read about in the forums with heat or disconnecting while it's sleeping. No problems at all. So I'm going to do a review on that, and I am completely tearing down my studio. Down all the way completely. So that's going to be interesting because I'm going to redo my basement, and I'm very scared. And I got a bunch of software, but we'll worry about that some other time.
Well, the only new thing I got is just that Addictive Drums too. I've been playing with that. I'm going to do a review on it whenever I get the opportunity to actually record it. I like it.
Did you have the first one, Kev? Did you have the first one?
Yes.
So is it a lot different, a lot better, Well, how would you say it is compared to the first one?
It's better than the first. It actually adds on to what the first did and made it a little better. It's almost like a little nice go-between between Addictive Keys and Addictive Drums 1. They added the cool stuff, mostly interface-wise, from Addictive Keys that made Addictive Keys a little easier to use. But they added some features, like there's a new layering feature in there that I really like. Now you have 3 extra slots instead of just the one before. So say if you wanted to add like a random clap, you could do that in the 1 extra slots in the first Addictive Drums. Now you have 3 of them, so you can chain link them. And you can chain link as many pieces as you want to. So if you want to chain link, say, 4 snares or 3 claps, which you know is nothing different when you use a traditional sampler. But to use a piece of drum software like this is awesome.
Okay. I'm going to have to check it out.
They added some cool new rhythm tools in there too. They were not a transit shaper, but a draw, like a kind of like a draw tool. I'm kind of trying to think of the right word and how to describe it without giving too much away. I'm going to review it too. Just know it's awesome.
Yeah. We'll stay posted for the review.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully, I'll put it out this week.
All right, cool.
Finals coming, I don't know.
What have you been up to, Bryce?
I got Reason 7.1, which I'm loving. I'm loving that. I'm all Reason now. I'm just going crazy on Reason right now. Yeah.
Now, let me actually ask you about that real quick. So you recently got the Motu 828 MK3?
Right.
And have you been using the CV outs?
Yeah, I use it.
A lot?
Yeah, so like anything in Reason that has CV, I can just pipe it straight to like my modular synth or anything, in the physical hardware world. So that's like huge for me because Reason has just like a ton of CV stuff. So like just being able to take advantage of that has just been real powerful for me. So like when it comes to anything synth bass that I'm doing, I'm in Reason for sure. So I'll use my modular or like my analog 4 and just get crazy with CV. So that's the one thing I've been going crazy on right now is Reason 7.1. It's mind
I have
blowing
a
for me.
feeling I'm going to be grabbing the Thunderbolt version of that interface extremely soon. So
Yeah,
that's why I ask.
Yeah, you'll love it. And then I got this little app right here. Let me see if you guys can see this. It's called Poly Chord Pad.
Yes,
And
very good. Very good.
this app is like changing my life right now. So as far as like chords and progressions and stuff, and
Are you
being
using that as much as the push?
I'm using this with Reason. Because push to use push is not really you can't use it like you use it with Ableton with all the chord modes and all that stuff, the scales. So when it comes to using Reason, I have to find an alternative. And this right here is like it's beast mode, man. It's like it outdoes push for me right now. So I'm just loving it. So
That's ridiculous.
yeah, it's crazy.
I just found another app that does exactly the same. Was it Coordinator? Was that the name of it? It has a really sleek interface and it triggers MIDI in your VST plugins.
Yeah, that's exactly how this one works. And it's like it's a beast, man. This app is a beast. And then they have the same developer made another app called what is it? It's the same kind of app, but it's for arpeggiation.
Yeah. PolyArp.
Yeah, Poly Step Art. And that's this one right here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome too. I use this guy a lot, which is
I have that too. Yep.
Music's Pro.
Yep.
And you can set up different
scales
and everything on that. I love using that. I mean,
that's a real good app.
I use it with everything. I use it with everything from my modular to machine, pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've been heavily debating on getting the USB CV PAL, which allows you to plug in any USB device into this little module, and it'll send.
The mutable instruments one.
Yeah, from mutable.
Yeah.
So I've been considering getting that to use along with it, because along with the Sequence 8, the Turing machine, and the other sequencers that I have, I just feel like that's a really cool way to sync everything up. And
Yep. Yeah. So instead of using like your micro brute, mini brute, or right? Is that pretty much what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm toying with different ways of setting all that stuff up. I have a feeling I'm going to end up doing a video on the pros and cons of different ways of using the micro brute and mini brute together. Because really, I've seen a couple different videos where people sync them different ways, but there's lots of pros and cons to whether you MIDI one to the other, or if you only do it through CV, or if you run audio through this way or audio that way. Like, there's lots of different pros and cons to the different ways that you can do it. So I'm probably going to end up having to do a video on that. But at the same time, there's so many different options there and pros and cons that I've been kind of dreading it because it's going to be a lot of work to do that.
Yeah. Maybe when you reorganize everything.
Oh, God.
That's going to take like 6 years. You see all the spaceships you got in there?
It's going to be ridiculous, but I'm not looking forward to the teardown. I'm immensely looking forward to the rebuild because I am going to do custom shelving and have everything. I'm heavily debating doing a standing desk setup because sitting here I tend to hunch over my gear and it's just not good for your back. So I'm really looking to raise everything up a bit and where the camera is right now, it's actually sitting on top of my turntable setup. I kind of want everything the same height as my turntables because I keep everything DMC height. So if you research the DMC competition, you'll find out exactly how everything is set up, and it's set up ergonomically. It's set up so that if you're practicing, your elbows are at a 90 degree, and it feels very nice when I'm standing and I'm DJing.
Right. Yeah.
I just found the name of the app. It's called Cardio. If you guys want to check it out.
I'll definitely check that out.
What is it called? Cardio?
Cordion.
Cordio.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. I have that one too. Yep, that's a good app.
Now, Bryce,
Yep.
you recently got a modular app as well, right? A new modular synth. Did
No,
you
I
get
didn't.
it? Or?
I didn't get that one. No, I didn't get it yet. The modal, I think it's called modal.
Yeah, modal, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't grabbed that yet either. I'm definitely looking at it though.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into apps all day just because there's so many of them. But honestly, I find myself buying a lot of apps that I will use like periodically. But man, I should be using that stuff way more than I do.
I have it totally integrated into my setup. I use iOS synths all the time.
Me too. Yep.
And I also love the touch remotes, like the Mackie Control emulations, where you have the faders for your mixer and stuff on the iPad. I love to mix with that. You know, I'm sitting like here. I have my iPad stand right here. I just put it in front of me, and I sit totally centered, and from the speakers, you know, and I just go ahead and move some faders.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah. So let me just ask, what are you using to get the audio into your DAW? What are you using as interface?
I have a Behringer UMA25S, which is like a 25 key MIDI keyboard with a built-in audio interface, and I hook this one up via USB to my iPad, so it streams MIDI to the iPad and audio from the iPad to the keyboard.
Nice.
And then I connect the audio outs from the keyboard to my main audio interface.
Can you throw a link up of that real quick, Mike? I heard. Can you throw it in the chat? Just I want to check it out.
And we'll put that in the description later. I use a Tractor audio interface that's up here, and I use the Tractor one, and I also use the Native Instruments Complete Audio because both of these work with iPad. So I'll use those.
So can you get MIDI? Can you get audio from your iPad with that, Ken?
Yes. Yep. All you need is a camera connection kit, and I use the iPad 4. And where's it at? I always keep basically the camera connection kit goes to behind my modular. I have a powered USB hub. So off of that powered USB hub, I've got MIDI cables that come out that go to. I've got this little controller, and I have a bunch of pad controllers. I've got unfortunately the machine controllers do not work with iPad because they are not class compliant. So even though I have the micro here and the MK2 over here, I've got all these other pad controllers, and none of them work with the iPad, which is, you know, oh well. But the Cuneo works with it. This guy right here, these Korg pads work with it.
Okay. Do you have so you have no way to play it like a standard keyboard into your iPad?
No, I do. I mean, I can do it with this, or I can plug in one of my other larger keyboards into it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that stuff works, and you can stream both ways. So I can send audio into the
iPad. Right. Got it.
MIDI. So it works. It works really well. It's not bulky or anything, you know.
Right.
With your setup, do you have? Can you send MIDI clock to the iPad with your setup?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool because that's what I'm missing. Because
really?
It's not connected to my computer via MIDI at the moment. I have a MIDI connection from the iPad to the keyboard, but
you can also do it through Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, like a hot what is it?
I think my Wi-Fi latency would be too high to do that.
You might try it out though, because you know it's not really going through your internet. It's just going through your single enclosed system, so it tends to work really well. You get a little bit of latency if you're trying to play like a software instrument on your computer from pads that are on the touch screen. Then yeah, you're gonna feel some latency there.
Okay.
But if you're just trying to sync up, it tends to work okay. I do more, you know, more so. I tend to use the hardwire kit because it doesn't really get in my way. But I mean, it works. It's definitely fun. I just don't use it enough. I need to force myself to use it more.
Yeah, for me, I use the Alesis I/O dock, and so like my iPad becomes an actual hardware synthesizer. Yeah, you know, so it's like using a piece of hardware, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we just lost Kev West. I think his glasses got to be too much on his head. What's going on there? Yeah. So this is episode 5. Kev is back now, so he can be here to close out the show with us. So
maybe a little bit.
just in closing, I just want to say again, thank you to everybody who's joined the Facebook group, the Producers Hangout. It's been really great meeting everybody, talking to everybody, finding out about different setups and whatnot. There's been some really great discussion on there.
Definitely.
A lot of heated debate, and at the same time, you know, people staying cordial to each other. So
Definitely.
That's what I like to see. You know, from me, I just want to say thank you to the admins and to all the new members, and you know, keep an eye out for the new Synthrotech video that should be my next video that's up. And I'll pass it off.
They love you, kid.
Fluxwithit.com. I'll pass it off to Mike.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you to all the group members, and keep inviting people. That's what keeps the group alive. Keep posting, and I hope to see you guys in 2 weeks. So I'll pass it over to Bryce again.
Yeah, I just want to say it's been, you know, great to be a part of the group. And a couple of weeks ago, well, it was about a month and a half ago, I mentioned we were coming out with we were going to release a little project called, and it's finally out. So it's the Blend Beat Project, over at Bandcamp. Check it out. It's got 20 beat makers, awesome underground hip hop, boom bap, all kind of really styles on it. Check it out over at Bandcamp, the Blend Beat Project. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Over to Kev.
Thank you guys for watching. And, of course, you know, I do appreciate you guys, of course, coming to the show and coming to the Facebook group. My EP is ready to go. I'm still looking for somebody to do some artwork, but the music is ready. So once I find somebody to do some art, we'll have that. I'll put that out. And then also, like I said, if you guys haven't subscribed to my YouTube channels, check both of those out. I'll make sure there's a link in the description of this actual video once it goes on YouTube. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining the group.
All right, everybody.
Take care.
Episode 5 is in the can. Peace.